All right, so the 5.2 update came with another spending event, which you know what that means. It means there's a lot of free stuff coming. And of course, MiHoYo never makes things simple, so you actually have a lot of choice in this spending event. So what I'm going to do is basically analyze all the choices that you can make and give my own recommendations. So first is the free S rank you will get for logging in. You'll get a choice between Fallen Rosemary, Vermilion Knight, or Argent Knight. If you own any of these, by the way, you can get a pretty significant amount of stamps. So of these three, easily the strongest and most relevant is Fallen Rosemary. She's both extremely powerful and used in pretty much all lightning teams at the moment, and can carry on her own if needed. Actually, the biggest problem with choosing Fallen Rosemary is the fact that she is farmable. So if you've been over level 80 for about a year, you probably already have Fallen Rosemary to a good rank. But if not, this is something you can consider picking just to speed up, because we have more Ancient Legacy Valkyries and it's not really feasible to farm more than one at once. So Vermilion Knight is the next option, and in terms of the meta and how relevant she is, she's going to be the worst option here. However, the Dorm bonus is at least somewhat significant if you did not get her from the Dorm supply already. This is a 5% fire damage bonus, which may seem small, but over the long term of playing, this is going to help you quite a bit. Lastly, we have Argent Knight, who can be used at the top, but we do have to concern ourselves with a few concerning details. This is what I like to call the wall of worry. First of all, Argent Knight is not the easiest Valkyrie to play. This is one of those Valkyries where skill makes a bigger difference than usual. So what does that mean? It means if you're a laggy phone player, just don't even touch Argent Knight. Second, we have the problem that she needs her pre-arm, which is the Scotty Scythe, though pretty much every Valkyrie has this problem, so that is to be expected. Third, she gets an extremely powerful passive at double S rank, which means you'll need to get her to double S if you want to be competitive with the other Ice Valkyries. Lastly, you have to ask the question if the boss coverage that she provides is worth it for you. So the bosses that she can get a competitive score on is the 2 clock bosses and Benares. And if you're only concerned with the Red Lotus bracket, then you can also consider Helmaru and the Ice Weather of Huodo. The one thing to note about all of these bosses is while she is competitive, she is not the #1 spot on any of these bosses. If you go over these 4 details and nothing strikes out as a problem to you, then you can go ahead and invest in Argent Knight. Alright, moving on, let's talk about the actual spending event. Now with all spending events, we always get these tokens to exchange for S-rank fragments, and the trend is there is a default pool that always shows up. In the past, some of these were not farmable, but as of late, we have gotten to the point where all of these options are farmable, save for Argent Knight. And with Argent Knight, we have discussed her earlier in the video, and usually with these spending events, I always advise to take the non-farmable options. So what other choice do you have here? So it seems the wild card of this event is Bright Knight, which means you can get a Bright Knight for free if you spend about 42,000 crystals. And while that may seem like a lot, the Raven supply actually refunds half your pulls, so you might be able to subtract 14,000 from this number. So is Bright Knight a good option to unlock? Well, if you've seen my Valkyrie recommendation video, you already know that she has been meta even without the pre-arm, and with the pre-arm she's obviously even stronger. So this combined with the fact that she is one of the only non-farmable options makes her probably the best choice in this spending event. Though if you do pick up Bright Knight, you definitely want to think about picking up the Abyss Flower as well. The whole reason why she's meta in the first place is because of this weapon, so take a mental note that you should be bundling these two together. The next option is the stamps for Bright Knight. Now obviously this is only for folks that already have Bright Knight. Now if you're familiar with Nirvana Abyss, or at least want to compete there, you'll be familiar with the fact that the constellation buffs for Bright Knight are quite important. If you're not familiar with it, I definitely am. I think Bright Knight is probably the only reason I've lost trophies in the last 8 months. Obviously, if you don't care about Nirvana, this is one of those old man screams at clouds discussion. When I say a Valkyrie is rank dependent, it's usually because I am biased through my experience in this hellhole called Nirvana Abyss. So what is MiHoYo doing? Well, they're giving us a more reasonable way to rank her up now. They're giving us plebs a chance here. And just to be clear here, which constellation buffs are really important? Well, the most important ones are the S2 rank and the double S rank. Anything in between those ranks you shouldn't be bothering with. With this spending event, you'll be able to get to S2, which is a key rank. And to get to S2, you'll need to spend about 55,000 crystals worth, but again, this is really about 41,000 if you're pulling on Raven's gear. And if you can't get Bright Knight to S2, in my opinion, you shouldn't bother with the stamps. In fact, I would probably warn against whaling just for the stamps, especially if you don't whale usually. Basically, treat this as a bonus, not a goal. What MiHoYo is doing is very suspicious. When they give fragments so easily like this, it is a sign that the shilling might stop. What does that mean? It means you shouldn't get too comfortable with Bright Knight's bosses showing up 3 times per patch. It is very likely this will stop after patch 5.2. The other thing I'm very worried about is them releasing an S rank with Physical Breach. This buff, which has very mysteriously and suddenly appeared in Elysian Realm by the way, is not in any one of our Valkyries. And to me this is all but obvious that it will eventually show up on a Valkyrie. Does it seem like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat? Let's move on. So the final option you have for your tokens is the Klein fragments. Now I would like to remind anyone who is concerned with the meta, between gear, Valkyries, and elves, elves make the smallest impacts by far. In fact, this is another one of those things that's only relevant in Nirvana. So how does Klein shape up? Well, Klein is the new lightning elf that, from what I've seen, is going to have a lot of widespread use just because of the fact that it forces lightning QTEs. It also has the unique ability to reduce the switch cooldown of your Valkyries. So when you put these two together, you get some very interesting openings for the lightning team. You're definitely going to see a lot of rotations that'll open up a lot easier with this elf. Forcing lightning QTEs is locked behind the 3-star by the way. So this is by far the most important upgrade for the elf. So if you just wanted to go from 2 to 3-star, you would have to spend about 200 to 400 tokens depending on your luck on the Klein gacha. But regarding what is available this patch to pull on, there is a lot. So let's go over that. The first thing I will mention is the Raven supply, which I've mentioned before in this video. The Raven gear supply is probably my #1 recommendation from this update. The gear itself is extremely strong and will probably be used for a long time. Now if you're familiar with the first time release A rank banners, these banners always come out when a new A rank comes out. Basically they guarantee you get the set much sooner, but in this update the banner is even better. You basically get half your pulls back for 80 pulls. This is basically the mother of all slick deals, especially during a spending event. Personally, I think this banner is unskippable if you follow the meta at all, so I would say just pull here until you get the full set. Regarding other stuff, well, the Hersher of Sentience and the Hersher of Flame Scion are expected to appear this update, so if you missed out on either of them, those are easy recommendations from me. But if you've been following the meta, you probably already have these two geared, so let's actually talk about the new Valkyrie that's coming out, which is Mobius. So Mobius, like pretty much every other S rank that will ever exist, has her own niche. Right now that's Andreus. Right now, that's her signature boss, and more likely than not, she will get at least one more. Regarding all of her other current bosses, I don't think she takes #1 on anything else, but regarding Red Lotus, she'll definitely be competitive on both clock bosses, Bright Knight, Homu, Type Counter Huodo, and the Hersher of Sentience boss. So actually that's quite a few bosses, and I actually don't know which ones she'll be competitive in Nirvana for, so that's definitely something that we have to wait and see how things develop. So what's the deal, Kibi? Should I pull? Should I not pull? What I recommend is that you have your Azure Imperia fully geared and your Fallen Rosemary fully geared first. Then, if you want, you can actually consider getting Mobius, and her cross by the way. It should be a given by this point that all new S ranks need their weapon. Where are you planning to use Judah? So the next thing that is interesting that they've included in this update is called the Firepower supply. So in this supply you can choose 5 weapons and 5 stigmatas, and when you do 110 pull, you will be guaranteed a new equipment. So what I'm going to do here is make things easy for you. Anything with an X here you should not try and pull, and the first thing that you'll notice right away is that I have made a lot of X's. This is usually because the stigmata is free or the stigmata is outclassed by something that is free. Anything with a dash here is just okay or is only good if you want to gear the associated Valkyrie. For example, Shakespeare Drift is only good on Dea and Korra, and anything with a circle is really good if you don't have it. Basically, if I am understanding this supply correctly, the best way to play it is to select 4 sets you already have, and then for the last set, you select a set that you want to snipe. You can also do the same for the weapons, and basically what you can do is snipe any particular piece of gear, and the reason why is because you're guaranteed to get something new, so this is a very good opportunity to snipe any missing pieces you might have. Now there's not much else for me to say. I hope you guys are saving crystals for 5.2 because this is definitely one of those opportunities where it is a good time to spend crystals.